All right, guys, welcome to Fire and Ice. We are here with another topic. This time, it's let's see how heated we can get here. The topic is WCW versus the WWF. Had to do it in my Vince voice. So we got Fire and Ice, Whitney and Shanna. Whitney, Ice, which side are you on, WCW or WWF?
WWF forever. I'm going to be totally honest, though. I'm going to be really bad at this one because I have never watched WCW. Growing up, I was a WWF fan. I watched it with my parents all the time. They took me to live events. Monday Night Wars were going on. Ratings was like a big ordeal. As a child, I didn't get it. I didn't understand. So I was just super loyal to my freaking brand because I'll be damned if I was going to contribute to them kicking our ass every Monday. So I clearly picked the good side because it's still around. So yeah, WWF.
Shayna?
I am picking WCW because how many years did they win the ratings war? They produced such talents that... Go ahead, Daniel.
I was going to tell you how many weeks it was. It was 83 weeks. So,
well, that's over a year. So, but I was a fan of actual wrestling. I didn't need to see women rolling around in mud and pudding and the bullshit that they did to their women. I didn't need to see
y'all just have
simulated. Hold on. I didn't need to see simulated sex acts and stuff like that. I actually am a fan of wrestling. Guys that are, you said that WWE is still around, but backstage is run by a lot of guys who got their start in WCW. And you have William Regal, who is, phenomenal with NXT talent. You have Dean Malenko, who works backstage. You have Fit Finlay, who's one of the guys who are one of the main reasons why the women's evolution is happening in the first place, as far as, getting the women booked. They just had so much more talent. Rey Mysterio Jr. honed his craft there. The Guerreros, Chris Benoit, just guys like that. Chris Jericho, he got his, start in WCW. And if it wasn't for...
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, for
Smoky
the
Mountain
modern
Wrestling, New Japan, Mexico, he got us started a lot of areas before WCW. Just saying,
ECW. Well,
you had to
the
work
modern
WWF because it was fucking elite. You had to work your way to get there. So WCW was the stepping stone.
At that time, not necessarily. The better talent, and if you look at it from an entertainment standpoint, WWF all the way. WCW had the talent where they didn't have to simulate sex scenes and do the bullshit that they did on camera because WCW killed it. Their women, not one woman in the WWF at that time could touch any of the women in WCW.
Did they have women in WCW?
The wrestling...
I thought they were...
Yeah, they did. They had a lot of Japanese. No, they had a lot of Japanese wrestlers. The Women's Evolution, Beth Phoenix t-shirt she had on, that was Bull Nakano. She is a living legend in Japanese wrestling. Her, Akira Hokuto, those women tore it down. They actually wrestled like the women in Japan do. They weren't running around in bras and panties. They weren't doing anything like that. So for me, I look at, and I think that's the reason why we have a lot of different perspectives on wrestling in general, because when I was growing up watching wrestling, I was watching the technical aspect of it. I was watching the storytelling through moves and holds and things like that. I didn't need all the fluff and the pomp and circumstance.
Back then was like the era of smut. That's when we had things like Playboy and just sexy women. Like that's
Jerry
what
Springer.
It was back then. And I mean, I wasn't into that. I was a 12-year-old child, but understanding the Attitude Era as a whole, that's what it was about. No one wanted women's wrestling until now. So,
well, except for me, and that's the reason why my perspective is a little different, because I actually would prefer to watch Harlem Heat wrestle. I would actually prefer to watch a cruiserweight match between Juventud Guerrera and Rey Mysterio. I would prefer that.
So hang on here. You're pro WCW. What do you take on the whole? They constantly for not only 83 weeks when they were in lead, but all the weeks after that and before that, constantly pushing NWO. I mean, they had like a million members and.
One thing you'll learn about me, no, well, at the beginning, I will say DX was formed because of the popularity of the NWO, but you'll learn this. I am a fan of the mid-card guys. I do like, main event guys now, but back then, the mid-card matches, much like today still, those are the guys I prefer. I would prefer those guys over a Hulk Hogan and a Kevin Nash and a Scott Hall. I would prefer the cruiserweights. I would prefer Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero and Chris Jericho at that time and those kind of wrestlers. I preferred the actual technical side of the wrestling. I would pick those guys.
Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, the Nation.
They weren't. Hold on, Bret Hart when during that point, that was a transition over to the Attitude. That was a transition over to the Attitude Era. I'm talking more about pre-Attitude Era, more of like when The Undertaker was coming in. They started a little bit before that. I mean, Miss Elizabeth was the classiest woman at the beginning of the 90s, and she was in WCW at that point in time. So, I mean, I am a fan of the mid-card guys and the technical aspect of it, and WWF could not touch the technical mat wrestling abilities.
And being badasses. Woo!
All right, so guys, all right, stop you there. So here it is. So I'm gonna give my opinion of my decision on this. I get both of your sides. I understand. There was times when I would like certain things in WCW because, oh wow, this looks more real, appealing storylines, appealing this. But overall, I would always find myself flipping right back to WWF and being tuned into that. This is even during before the Attitude Era when you had Steve Austin and Bret Hart going at each other. You had Shawn and Bret going at each other. This is before the Attitude Era. So the Attitude Era just made it even more enticed to have to turn it over. So I'm going to have to say I am definitely Team WWF. And I've seen more WWF shows. I went to more house shows and events for WWF than I did for WCW. I actually, there was times where I didn't go to WCW when they were in town, but went to WWF the month after when they were in town. So I have to say I'm on this one. I'm also like last week. I'm with Ice on this. I'm pro WWF. Sorry, Shanna.
Story of my life.
All right, guys. So thanks, everyone. And you can give your opinion of what you are, Team What, Team WWF, Team WCW, on Twitter at Ringside Podcast, or individually. I'm at Daniel Spencer. Shanna, you are at Shanna Hill 7. Is that right?
Yes. And 2 N's in Shanna, by the way, just in case nobody ever spells it right. It's SHANNA.
Of course, we always tag you and everything. And Whitney, you are at McCallister 8.
McCallister 8.
All right.
So tell me why I'm right.
Right. There you go. All right, guys. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching on this YouTube edition as well as listening on our podcast. And don't forget to catch us next week on we do another exciting topic of Fire and Ice.